Hello, hello, everyone. It's Wednesday.
Hi, it is.
It's hump
The
day.
week has flown by.
I know, and we're closed on Friday here in Lima, so
Woo.
tomorrow is Friday for us.
That's exciting.
That is
What are you
exciting.
going to do?
I'm going to come in here and work on a couple
Oh,
things.
okay.
I know.
Well, I'm not going to be in
Well,
here.
I won't be here for long, but just for a couple hours, I'm going to be here, and we got some maintenance things to deal with here. But
that's fun.
Oh yeah,
that's fun stuff.
Oh yeah. So anyway, happy Good Friday and Easter to everyone, and we just thought we'd pop on here today for a live and just kind of talk about. And I guess I'm kind of reminiscing about making a quilt in the traditional way, versus the Hoop Sisters way.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised, and maybe I'll mention this when we get to the point about layering the quilting on the floor, because I thought that was a workout.
That is a workout.
But she admitted it was a workout. So we'll talk about that in just a minute.
So before we jump to that, though, can we talk a little bit? We'll kind of remind you guys at the beginning and the end. So we're coming off virtual quilt hop from last week, but we have so many more exciting things planned. And one of those is, if I can get it on the screen, our Lavender Love Workshop.
I'm excited.
Which is going to be with you and Aubrey. And this is adorable.
It is. I just love it. I absolutely love it. And I think you guys will too. And if you're watching on the VIP group, you probably saw the free gift with registration. A couple people have stitched out a little lavender sachet, which is awesome. And we also will tell you during the workshop, maybe we'll tell them next Wednesday.
I don't know. You'll have to see. I don't know what the plan is. I'm just kind of filling in for Aubrey. I don't know what her genius plan is on that.
But I do know that it seems like people that like purple don't just like purple. They're obsessed with purple.
Are you talking about Nina? Just kidding, Nina. Nina's favorite color is purple. So anytime one of our designs is made in purple, I think she loves it. But I think you're right. It's like purple fanatics.
It is. I mean, I know people that have a purple purse and purple tennis shoes and purple, all kinds of stuff. So
Gloria said me.
So there you go. So
Ellen put some purple hearts.
So make sure you ladies are registered because you're going to want to see this. It's very cute.
Yeah. So Lavender Love Workshop is next Thursday and Friday. So April 4th and 5th. And join us live if you can. It's at 2:00 Eastern both days. If you can't, the replay will always be available. But let's show them. If I can find my mouse, let's show them this free gift close up because it is so cute and it smells so good.
It does smell really good. So there, I'm going the wrong way again. There it is. It's just a little lavender sachet.
It's so cute.
It's very cute. It says lavender down. I never know which way to go. It says lavender at the bottom. Very cute. Just a cute little bag. Put a little ribbon at the top.
It's very cute.
You could hang this on hangers in your closet, or in your dresser drawers, or give it as a gift.
That's right.
Easter's coming Sunday, so this would make a great little thing to tuck away in an Easter basket.
Oh, like a hostess gift.
Are you hosting? Yeah. So can you whip up some of these? Thank you.
I made you one. Maggie says purple is such a calming color. That is true. Maybe that's why people love purple. That is very true.
We could all use calming, couldn't we?
And hi, Linda. Hi, Paula. Hello, everyone, as you guys are still jumping on. So what we're going to do today, like Annie said, she made a whole presentation for you guys that is awesome because I know a lot of gals and guys here are new. And so if you're new here and you don't know what Quilt-in-the-Hoop is, or you're kind of just getting familiar with it, you have some great things to kind of contrast the difference between traditional quilting.
And it's interesting too, Sarah, because some people that do our things, maybe they came from a quilting background, and there might be others that have never made a quilt, but they've done embroidery. So it's kind of where the two worlds meet.
How they meet up. Yeah.
So it'll be kind of fun, I think, to talk about, and we would love to hear your opinions as we go through this little presentation too.
Yeah. Sandra did ask what people are putting in their sachet. I think you put you put lavender in there.
I did put lavender in there, and I think you could probably go to a local craft store. Amazon also has it, or if you want to wait until the announcement next week, might want to do that too. Maybe.
Okay, let's jump right into this, Annie.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
we got a little Hoop
I
Sisters
don't know
logo.
why.
That's all
up
right.
there.
That's
Let me
okay.
Make sure. Okay, it's just on the first slide. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why, but
Anyhow, so we're going to talk about there's differences and also similarities to this, and we can go on and go through to the next slide. One of the first things, I'm going to kind of go in the order of how you make a quilt. So first thing you'd have to do is cut your fabric. So you would have to make sure you have good rotary cutting and measuring skills, because when you do traditional quilting, you have to cut your quilt blocks absolutely perfect size of what the instructions will tell you. In ours, we do give you measurements on what size to cut your fabric, but if you're a little tiny bit off, it's okay. We will give you measurements that are enough to fill up the area where the fabric needs to go, and it will not affect your finished block. So that's kind of a cool thing.
I love that because I'm not perfect and my rotary cutting skills probably aren't perfect either.
Uh-oh. And also...
Sorry, did I jump ahead too quick?
I think maybe you did.
Oh, okay.
Well, go. She's driving, and she's a backseat driver, one or the other. Oh no, you're okay. You can go on to the next one.
Okay.
Good grief. So, and also when you're doing your seams, another thing that has to be perfect is you have to get the perfect 1/4 inch seam throughout your quilt. And if you don't, you just run the chance of your quilt not being square. And I know that my particular machine, and maybe yours does too, has a particular stitch that you can go to, but you have to use a certain foot for it in order to get a perfect 1/4 inch seam.
And I use that foot and that stitch every time I need a perfect 1/4 inch seam.
Right, and I do too. And then sometimes I'll go back and I would begin sewing them. I would forget, and I'll just go to the default stitches with just a straight stitch, which works, but not necessarily if you have a certain foot on it. So I just wanted to show them this foot.
Even with this foot, I think it still takes practice to get a perfect 1/4 inch seam.
So this is just a 1/4 inch foot. Hopefully I can put that in a way that they can see. There is,
just got that black
there's
guide
a black guide, so your fabric would run against that, and that's what you would use. Typically, most 1/4 inch feet kind of look like that. So in traditional quilting, this is a very nice tool to have. Just make sure you're using the correct stitch on your machine in order to get a perfect 1/4 inch seam. And sometimes it might be a good idea too, just to kind of measure your 1/4 inch seam if you're doing traditional quilting. And you have all these seams in your quilt. So if you don't have that absolute perfect 1/4 inch, or maybe your sewing skills is you can't really get it to be a perfect 1/4 inch, and that adds up or subtracts from the size of your quilt. So row by row, you might not be getting things that are even. So traditional quilting always requires just a little bit more perfection. With Hoop Sisters Quilt-in-the-Hoop thing, the cool thing is that it sews the seam exactly where it needs to be, and then you trim. So traditional quilting, you sew the seam.
So this is like the stitch and flip technique.
It is. I'm talking about the stitch and flip. So it's going to sew it exactly where you need it to be, which is very, very cool, which means every block is going to turn out perfect.
I like that wiggle room too, because if you're using a dark fabric, like maybe a black fabric, like you had black fabrics and white fabrics on Peekaboo.
Right.
So you can kind of cheat your fabric over a little to make sure it's completely covering.
Right.
And you have that wiggle room to do that.
Whereas in
traditional quilting, you do not.
Yep. And I think she's talking about when you tack down first your dark fabric and then you're laying a lighter fabric over it, that you want to make sure that black is tucked under that.
Yes.
And so hopefully that made sense to everybody.
Yeah.
Sense to me.
Me too. You guys can ask questions in the comments if there's anything that we say and you want some clarification on.
If we confuse you more than ever. So once you get in traditional quilting, you get a block finish, you need to make sure it's squared up. And again, it's going to require some cutting and measuring skills. And with Hoop Sisters, there's no need to square up your blocks. They'll come out perfect every single time. And the only thing you have to do with the Hoop Sisters block is just trim away the bulk. with the trimmer by George. And so that is another great thing, is that that's one less step that you have to do, because you know that our blocks are already square. And you know what, Sarah? I went to the internet because I'm thinking it's been a while since I have squared up a block. So I just Googled it just to make sure I remembered everything. And here's what I got, is this really long list of things you have to do to square up a block.
Process.
5-step with, bullet points. And it's, you need your square ruler. You probably need a larger one for larger blocks, but you have to press your block, and pressing is very important. Also, when you're doing a traditional quilt block, and with Hoop Sisters, all we're doing is finger pressing that seam. And again, we can do that because the embroidery machine stitches the seam exactly where it needs to be. Then when you're doing traditional quilting, you have to figure out what size block is this supposed to be once you get all your pieces sewn together. And that's where the square ruler comes in. When you're doing traditional quilting, you're going to need one of these. You're going to have to find the center point on your ruler and make sure you match that with the center point on your block. You have to make sure if there's points on your block that you're not trimming any of those points away, because that's also very important. Okay.
Sorry, I grabbed this. I wasn't sure if you were going to read more on that. I grabbed this though because this is just the example of how your block is perfectly square. Even if you're not trimming a perfect 1/4 inch right from that basting stitch, the basting stitch represents your true block. Right. And the basting stitch is perfectly square because that's how it's digitized.
Yep. And so you will sew your seam when you sew your blocks together right on the basting stitch, not matching the edges of the 1/4 inch.
Yep.
So these are just, mostly differences, more differences than similarities. And when you're adding a border in traditional quilting, you need to measure both sides, and you need to measure the center in order to cut your border. And then you need to add those together and divide it by 3 to get your average, or what, and this is the length that your border has to be.
I did not know this before you told me this earlier today, and I still am very confused on it. So I'm very happy and grateful for the Quilt-in-the-Hoop method that makes it very simple to do.
Absolutely. Well, let me show this, and I will explain it again. And those, you want to switch us over? Those who are my watermelons upside down? Yes, they are. So just for traditional quilting's sake, if this was a quilt top, you would measure the center top to bottom, the sides top to bottom, both sides, add the 3 together, divide by 3, and that's the length that you would cut your border. And sometimes on a bigger quilt, it's going to be really, really long. It's just a lot more difficult. But with Hoop Sisters, you want to point out where the blocks are. Yeah, our borders are actually blocks. So they are guaranteed to fit perfectly, which is very cool. It's a lot easier to handle doing one block at a time, sewing them together on that basting stitch. And that's another difference between like a, traditional or Quilt-in-the-Hoop.
Sandra wants to see the log cabin block again. So this is our 10-inch log cabin block. And I don't know if you wanted to hear what we were saying about this, but we were just saying that all of these blocks are perfectly square because the true block right here is within that basting stitch that's already digitized. But this is from our log cabin design. And it's a big block.
It is a big block.
Let me go back over here. Okay, what's next?
Okay, next is once you get your borders.
Oh, I don't think I switched to this earlier and we already talked about it. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Well, no, yeah, you're fine. So you also have to square your quilt up. So you get your blocks, you square your blocks, you sew them all together, you add your borders, and now you also have to square up your quilt. So again, I Googled instructions on that too. I am not going to share those with you.
You've done all this before.
I've done all this before. I have done all this before. And to my surprise and delight, I was actually doing things correctly when I did traditional quilting. But with the Hoop Sisters quilt, there's no reason to square anything up. These blocks are already square, and it's just a matter of sewing them all together. So that makes my life easier. This is probably why I will never go back.
Okay, now.
Oh,
This is the hard
This
part.
is what we were talking about in the beginning, is that in traditional quilting, you have a quilt top that's finished. And now you have to add your batting and your backing. And you do that by spreading out your quilt back on the floor, taping it down, making sure it's taut but not too tight, and taping that down. Then you do the same thing with your batting. And then you're going to add your quilt top on the top of that. And then you get on your hands and knees. If you're not already sweaty, don't wear a sweatshirt or sweater. You're going to need a t-shirt and shorts. I don't care what time of the year it is. You will get hot. And then you get on your knees with pins and you pin all those layers together. And then you untape everything and you can go ahead and do quilting and stuff like that. But it's a workout. It really, really, really is a workout. So the cool thing about Hoop Sisters is that we have different backing options. A lot of our quilts, they already have the backing added while they're in the hoop. And that when they, well,
I'm going to switch to the next slide, but I wanted to say on this, I did this and I was like newly married. My husband and I lived in an apartment, so we literally had to move furniture out of the way. And
you do need some floor space.
I was mid-20s and I had no idea at that time how much physical work was in that. I was sweating. And
I thought it was just me because I was older, but evidently it's not.
It's a lot of
work. But with Hoop Sisters, with Quilt-in-the-Hoop with Hoop Sisters, you're going to add your backing while it's in the hoop. Now, this is not one of those examples, but we're going to show some for you in the middle in a minute. You can add a one-piece backing as you do in traditional quilting if you want to, and we like to do that with smaller projects like the watermelon quilt that I held up. Larger quilts you can back in sections like you see in that picture. I can't remember if that's 2x2 blocks or 3x3, but you can do it either way. And the fun thing about doing it that way is that if you want the back to look different than the front, you can see I took some this is our freshly picked design. I took some of the flowers, which are also included just as a standalone embroidery, and I embellished some of the outside blocks there so that you can see what those look like. It looks a little bit different. So between each section, then you'd add the sashing strips to cover the raw edge. So that's one way to do it. And then another way is some edge to edge. So we have some examples we're going to show you here. And there is not one example that I'm going to show you that you had to get on the floor on your hands and knees and
thank goodness
and get all hot and sweaty and out and exhausted from doing that. And it is exhausting in the end. And the other thing too, Sarah, at the time you had a husky.
I did. I had a husky.
Just extra warmth in the quilt.
And he's very hairy. And you know what, though? I didn't have kids then, so I could clean a lot more.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I'm sure that quilt, by the way, was a whole cloth quilt, and it will be beautiful one day, but it will not be beautiful anytime in the next 10 years.
Just don't spill anything on it.
Yeah, it's shoved in a closet right now. Are we going to the next one?
No, I think we're going to show them some different backing examples.
Okay.
So one of the examples we talked about, and I'll show you, this is the backing where you can add a one-piece backing to our quilts if you want to. And it's easier with the smaller projects like that quilt in that picture that we just showed. I would not want to do it that way because I'd then be on the floor again, which kind of defeats the purpose with Quilt-in-the-Hoop. You can add,
I'll hold this one up.
Okay. This is our log cabin. So this kind of looks like a one-piece back, and then we quilted through it, but it's actually the backing was added block by block while it was in the hoop. And then you probably can't see it because it blends in so nice, but these are sashing strips that then cover the raw edge. And here's another example of this is our little butterfly quilt. I'll trade you. And our butterfly quilt was done the same way as you saw the log cabin. We added the backing while it's in the hoop, and then we matched our needle and bobbin thread so you can see the quilting come through to the back.
Yeah, really pretty.
Did not require getting on the floor. And these are the same as the other ones. And then the other way of doing it is This is our barn quilt. So those who participate in the barn quilt probably are aware of this way of doing it. And you can see the quilting that's on the front here. Let's flip it around. This is an edge-to-edge design that came with the barn quilt.
I'm trying to see if they can.
Yeah, it's
see it.
Match the thread,
Yeah.
but you can see the quilting is completely different than the front.
Yeah.
But again, it's a smaller size quilt, so you didn't have to do all that crawling around on the floor. So those are a few differences, a few similarities, more differences than similarities.
All right. I don't know why this picture is covering that. Something about when I put this slideshow in here. So I'm sorry about that.
Yep,
but
that's
we'll
all right.
go over it.
That's okay. So with Hoop Sisters, all the quilting that you've seen in all these, there's all included, which makes it so much nicer. You don't have to figure out what to do with it. And when you take it out of the hoop, it's already quilted, which is fantastic. Because I know when we were doing traditional quilting, you'd get to the end, you'd get your quilt top put together, and then it would say quilt is desired. And then you'd be like,
what does that mean?
Right. What does that mean? What do I have to do? How do I want to quilt it? I don't know. Am I going to have to mark it? Am I going to do free motion? Am I going to, am I going to do it by hand? 4-letter word. But I do sometimes enjoy that. But you're left with figuring out how to quilt it. Are you going to take it to somebody long
Or you just take it and shove it in the closet like I did.
Exactly. You can bring it to someone to long arm. If you got a really empty, huge room in your house, you can buy a long arm yourself. And I will say that I'm not trying to knock traditional quilting. I love to do
it's amazing. And there's something to be said for the work that you put into that. Right,
absolutely. So and that is where I began. It's where Sarah began. And it's fun. It's relaxing. But I'm just trying to point out maybe some differences and also some similarities. And just different ways to do it. But what I like about doing it Quilt-in-the-Hoop, Hoop Sister style is that quilting's included and it's custom quilting.
Yes.
So the front will always have custom quilting. It's just, I just love to do it that way. So
I see one question I wanted to pop up here. Someone was asking, is there somewhere they can look to learn more about the quilting process that's done on the barn quilt that we just held up? So the barn quilt was a sew along back in January of this year. So you definitely are going to be able to find videos on that. You can look in our Hoop Sisters VIP group, or you can look on our YouTube channel, which is just called the Hoop Sisters. So I would recommend going to one of those two places, and you'll find, I think it's 4 or 5 videos on that. So lots of information there. But that's awesome. I hope everyone learned something.
I hope so.
And it's fun to see the differences between the two.
Right.
Both are amazing for different reasons.
They are. They really are.
And okay. Before we leave, I do want to remind you guys, if you weren't here in the beginning, we told you about the Lavender Love Workshop next Thursday and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can go ahead and go to our website and get registered for this right now. And if you get registered, you'll right away get access to that free gift, which is the Lavender Love Sachet. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I almost said satchel.
That's something else.
But go ahead and get registered for that, and you will get access to make to these design files for the cute little sachet. Very cute. You'll get those right away, and you can download them right after you register. Or you also are able to grab a link in your confirmation email. So either way, okay. Let's see. Okay, Anita says she's always stumped in how to put an embroidered black quilt together after the top is made. Anita, you should join us next Friday. Because day 2 of our workshop, we always show you a pinning technique and just kind of basics of how to join a block. And it might help you out. So I would recommend doing that. Or in our sew-alongs, we kind of always share the assembly process. And in Masterclass, which is currently going on, this coming Monday is our last class for Masterclass. We are going to talk in detail about putting it together, which is kind of one of the most popular topics.
It
right?
is. It really is. And Mary writes us that her Feathered Star won first place in the Atlanta Quilt Festival.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Congratulations.
Great job, Mary.
Mary, post a picture of Feathered Star in our VIP group if you haven't already.
Yeah.
We'd love to see it and just enjoy it with you a little bit. And Sharon is registered for Lavender Love, and so is Maggie. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think we're good to go.
I think
go
we
get
are.
registered
That's
and
right.
make this cute little thing.
Yeah. Great Easter basket gift, and we'll see you in Lavender Love next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.